Some good news on the economic front. The unemployment rate held steady at 9.7% last month. That's despite expectation that it would have creeped closer back to double digits.
Christina Romer chairs the White House Council of Economic Advisors, and she's on the White House North Lawn. And we should mention before we get going here that we see some flashing lights behind you, Christina, as we understand it. As often happens at the White House, a tourist fainted. So we just want to make sure our viewers don't get concerned about anyone's health. Apparently, it's just a
well, they should be
fainting.
concerned about the tourist's health.
Which the person just fainted and is fine. So, okay, now we can go on to economic numbers. Christina, what's your take on these numbers, and how much, if at all, did the snow and the big snowstorm in the east affect the bottom line here?
So we certainly do think that the snowstorm had a pretty significant negative effect on at least the payroll employment number. So I think that's why we like the markets, and a lot of the other analysts are thinking this is a fairly encouraging number. That as you know, we lost 36,000 jobs, but I think because of the weather, that was certainly pushing it down. You also mentioned that the unemployment rate held steady, and I think that again is a little bit encouraging because we'd had a pretty significant drop last month, and there was some question about whether that was real or a statistical fluke, and the fact that it stayed down is suggesting it is more likely to be real, and that obviously we want it to come down a whole lot more.
All right, Dr. Romer, it's always inside the numbers that sometimes intrigue people, both in a positive and a negative. If you could pick out one that you think is the best positive for a sign, and then one that has you concerned that was a little bit lagging of sort of in one of the various sectors, whether it was manufacturing or another sector.
All right, so I think an encouraging thing, well, there are lots of them. One is that temporary help employment was up, I think for the 5th month in a row. That's often where you first see healing in the labor market. The other one that really intrigued me was the drop in the long-term unemployment. The people that have been out of work for more than 6 months, that dropped by some 180,000, which again, don't want to read too much into any one number, but boy, that would be a wonderful thing if we could start getting that number coming down.
And of a concern?
The concern was, I noticed in the local employment, local government employment, that was one of the big negative numbers, and especially local education. And I think that really is emphasizing how our state and local governments are still struggling with very tight budgets, and kind of tells you some about why the president is still pushing for things like some additional state fiscal relief, because we think that has been something that's really helped to keep teachers and firefighters employed at the state and local level.
All right, Christina Romer, chair of the Council of Economic Advisors at the White House, thank you for your reaction this morning. We appreciate that.
Sure.